There's something quite human about the quiet struggles even the most distinguished among us face behind closed doors. For King Felipe VI of Spain, a man admired by many for his approachable manner and understated dignity, such struggles are not merely symbolic of royal responsibility, they are deeply personal. While the pomp and protocol of monarchy may shield much from view, there are certain truths that quietly persist, visible not in grand declarations but in small, almost imperceptible habitus that tell the story of a man under weighty expectations. Felipe has long been seen as a modern royal, less aloof, more in touch with the people, someone who prefers meaningful dialogue over stiff ceremony. Yet behind that natural composure lies an invisible burden he's carried for years, the persistent and often misunderstood condition of onychophagia, compulsive nail-biting. Now this might sound trivial at first, a mere nervous tic perhaps, but for those who've lived long enough to understand the complexities of anxiety and the toll it quietly takes on a person's daily life, it signals something deeper. The king's hands, often visible during public ceremonies or greetings, bear the marks of this ongoing battle. Ragged cuticles, occasional bandages, and signs of discomfort during close-up encounters speak volumes. It's not a question of neglect or carelessness, it's the result of a long-standing internal unease, one that has only grown in tandem with the responsibilities thrust upon him when he assumed the throne during one of the most fragile periods for the Spanish monarchy. Many may remember the context in which Felipe became king, the abdication of his father, King Juan Carlos III, amid growing public scrutiny, political fragmentation, and a generational shift in how royalty is perceived. In this climate of change and skepticism, Felipe was expected to restore trust, present a fresher image, and somehow balance centuries of tradition with the present-day demands of a more egalitarian, media-saturated society. That's no small feat. And for someone who by many accounts leans toward introspection rather than flamboyance, the weight of public life, especially when under constant watch, can become exhausting. Those closest to the royal household, including staff at the Zarzuela Palace, have noted that the king has made several sincere efforts to rid himself of the habit. He's tried therapy's stress management techniques, even adopting a stricter daily routine to better manage his mental load. But as many in their 60s know all too well, some habits rooted in anxiety don't yield easily to logic or willpower. They resurface during quiet moments, or in the minutes before a state event, or in the aftermath of yet another political meeting where his every word is dissected in the press. It is this relentlessness, the feeling of never truly stepping off stage, that continues to manifest in the smallest details of his demeanor. And while most of us would expect a monarch's challenges to revolve around constitutional debates or foreign relations, the reality is often far more personal. Take, for instance, a matter that few would expect to be discussed within royal circles: dental hygiene. King Felipe has reportedly long struggled with a misalignment of his front teeth. Nothing particularly dramatic, but enough to be noticeable in close-up photographs or during extended conversations. To most people, it would be a minor inconvenience, perhaps even endearing. But in the high-pressure world of royalty, where every angle, every smile, every blink is captured, analyzed and commented upon, these small things grow large. Queen Letizia, who is known not only for her elegance, but also for her sharp attention to image and detail, has reportedly asked her husband to refrain from overly broad smiles during public appearances. It wasn't a demand made out of vanity, but out of concern for the family's image, yes, but perhaps also for Felipe himself, who might prefer to keep a lower profile. It's also been suggested that, beyond the aesthetic concerns, the issue may occasionally be linked to halitosis, a condition that, though common and treatable, can be deeply embarrassing, especially in settings where personal space is limited and formalities dictate close conversation. This again ties back to the broader theme how anxiety, stress, and constant scrutiny chip away at even the most composed figures. There's a poignant twist to this narrative when one hears that Princess Leonore, the couple's eldest daughter and heir apparent, may have inherited a similar predisposition. Not necessarily the habits themselves, but the underlying sensitivity, the internalization of pressure, and the tendency to carry it within the body rather than to express it outwardly. For Queen Letizia, a woman deeply conscious of public perception and protective of her children's future roles, this must be especially worrying. It's said that she has taken great care in instilling discipline and hygiene in the household, not as a matter of pride, but as a buffer against the kind of invasive commentary she herself has endured as a royal figure transitioning from journalism to royalty. Yet even in such a well-managed environment, certain struggles persist quietly passed on, not through instruction, but through observation and shared temperament. What this reveals in a very human way is that no amount of pageantry, privilege, or protocol can shield a person from their inner battles. Anxiety, as many older adults know intimately, does not discriminate. It doesn't care if you live in a palace or a terraced home, if you wear a crown or a cardigan. It surfaces in small rituals, in habits picked up during stressful times, in coping mechanisms developed during youth that linger into middle age. And for King Felipe, his nail-biting, his occasional discomfort in smiling, his visible tension at long state functions, they are not signs of weakness. They are the marks of a man doing his best to carry a heavy title with dignity, even when his nerves occasionally betray him. It's tempting to judge public figures by their perfect photographs or the polished speeches delivered from ornate balconies, but perhaps especially for those of us who've lived long enough to see generations rise and fall. Leaders come and go, we might understand the deeper story of a man trying quietly to uphold the role of monarch, father, husband, and citizen. Not flawlessly, not without scars, but with authenticity. And in today's world where image so often takes precedence over substance, there's something rather dignified in the imperfection. A reminder that behind the royal crest is a human being who, like any of us, sometimes struggles to breathe beneath the expectations, but continues on nonetheless. So the next time we see a photograph of King Felipe VI waving to a crowd, or read a headline dissecting his appearance, it might serve us well to pause. To remember that anxiety doesn't vanish with titles, and that the strength to carry on in public while enduring quiet personal battles is in itself a form of courage, especially when those battles are not understood, and when solutions are not as simple as a stylistic change or a press release. For those of us who've known what it's like to raise families, care for loved ones, survive loss, and bear responsibilities quietly, we may find in Felipe's story not gossip, but recognition. The kind that comes only with age experience, and the quiet wisdom of knowing that even kings have their unseen crosses to bear. In a way, it's this very humanity, these cracks in the porcelain, that have drawn a quiet respect from those who look beyond the surface. For all his challenges, Felipe has never sought to hide behind grandeur. He doesn't lean on flamboyance or theatrics. There is a stillness about him, a kind of steady presence that resonates more with those who've weathered their own storms than with those dazzled by pageantry. He walks into rooms not as a man seeking to dominate the space, but as one quietly aware of how burdens shape posture, how pressure can soften the voice rather than raise it. And perhaps this is what his country, and indeed the world, needs more of: leaders who are not symbols of unattainable perfection, but who reflect the quiet endurance most people live by every day. For those in their later years who have lived through social upheavals, wars, cultural revolutions, and the fading of once mighty institutions, there is something deeply familiar about the image of a man doing his duty despite private struggles. It's the same sense that carried parents who kept going when the children were small, and money was tight, that helped spouses nurse each other through illness, or that guided hands to plant gardens, even after loss. That same quiet strength is what Felipe embodies, though his garden may be the nation, and the eyes upon him, many. His imperfections are not a cause for ridicule, but a testament to his sincerity. And as we look at the modern monarchy and wonder about its place in today's world, perhaps Felipe's story offers a clue. Perhaps its future lies not in pristine appearances or rigid decorum, but in vulnerability, honestly born, and in a kind of leadership that acknowledges its own humanity. Because in the end it is not grandeur that moves people. It is grace, under pressure and dignity in the face of doubt. And in that regard, King Felipe may be more kingly than most ever realize.